depending on which Christian you talk to, self-esteem could either be the most important thing for a Christian or it could be sinful. What's the truth? What does the Bible say? There's a ditch on either side of every road. You gotta find the balance, man. What does the Bible say? Welcome back to the channel, guys. I am glad that you found your way back here. If you're new here, my name is Jeremy Mason, and my goal with this channel is to provide good Christian content, mostly for Christians. I want to encourage believers and do whatever I can to help you along in your spiritual walk with Jesus Christ by providing good devotional content and speaking on important issues in a biblical worldview. And so welcome to today's video about self-esteem and a biblical view of self-esteem. Now, the only verse in the Bible that I can find that specifically talks about self-esteem is Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. The Bible says, "Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves." And you might say that that doesn't necessarily exactly talk about self-esteem, but I would beg to differ. It says that you're to esteem others better than yourself. And so the deduction that you can make out of that is that you are to esteem yourself to some extent. There's some value of self-esteem that you ought to have that would be correct. And the biblical parameter that we're given here, a formula for a correct usage of self-esteem, is that your esteem of others must be greater than your self-esteem. Now, because most of us tend to be selfish and think about ourselves way more than we ought to, you hear that equation and you think that what that means is that you have to have low self-esteem. But that's simply not the case. The only rule is that you have to esteem others better than yourself. And so if you esteem others very highly, then you can have high self-esteem and be following the biblical parameters. Makes sense to me. So I think this touches on another issue that you may or may not have heard of, the acronym JOY. And what that is that a clever way to think about joy and a good way to have joy in your life is to correctly prioritize Jesus first, others second, and yourself last. This is so contrary to mainstream media and just the way that people think about things, especially in the world of content creation. Everybody's all about improving themselves and self-esteem, and there's good to be found in all of those things. But from a biblical perspective, we're to think much of Christ and think much of others, and then that leaves a little room at the end for us to think highly of ourselves too. It's not that you have to put yourself down. It's that you're elevating Christ, you're lifting Christ up as high as you possibly can, and then esteeming others better than yourself. Again, that doesn't mean that your self-esteem has to be low. And so, in theory, the more highly you esteem Jesus Christ, and the more highly you think of other people, the higher your self-esteem can be. And you still have your priorities correct, and you're still treating self-esteem in a biblical manner. But what tends to actually happen if you follow that pattern is that it produces something that's much more powerful than self-esteem. If you do lift up Christ as high as you can and think highly of others and treat others well, it doesn't really translate to high self-esteem. It translates to getting to a place where you just don't think about yourself as much. Now, that's not don't take that the wrong way. Don't hear something that I'm not saying. I'm not saying that you don't have to take care of yourself, and I'm not saying that it's not important to put your own mask on first. Of course, those things are true. You have to do that. But the truth of the matter is, most people just think about themselves not too highly or too lowly. They just think about themselves too much. And when you get your priorities right, and you're thinking of Christ and thinking of others and how you can positively impact others and help others and exhort others is a good biblical term for it. You just don't think about yourself as much. People who think about themselves all the time tend to have a low view of others. They tend to be jaded and cynical. They're the kind of people that you hear say things like this: you might not like it, take it or leave it, but this is just how I am. As if the society has almost made it so that embracing your flaws is somehow virtuous. Obviously not the case. Work on yourself. Do better. Be a productive member of society. Contribute. Make yourself such that you're attractive to other people, and it will be reciprocated. That leads me to the next point: is people that think of themselves too much tend to have transactional relationships with other people. And what that means is that they do plenty of good, but the good things that they do come with an expectation, whether that's vocalized or not. And sometimes they'll go a good long while doing things for other people and being selfless, if you will. But eventually, they just get sick of it. They'll post on social media things like, "I'm not investing in people that don't invest in me anymore," and things of that nature, which is just not the right way to do it. Now, if you have abusive relationships, you need to leave them in 2024. Cut them off, get out of there. I wish you the best with that. That's important. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is pouring into people, being a giver, being a good person in general, doing the best that you can to help people, and just don't do it with the expectation of receiving it back. Now, it will come back around. The Bible's clear about this. It says, "Cast thy bread upon the waters, and it will return to thee after many days." But a lot of times it'll come back around from another place. In other words, you help this person, and then you expect to get it back from them. And most of the time, that's not how it works. If you do this good thing to this person, well, God sees it, God knows about it, and God's going to send someone your way to help you out and do good things for you. And that's how that works. Another way to say it is, people who struggle with low self-esteem don't actually struggle with low self-esteem. They actually struggle with being too self-conscious. And the more time you spend thinking about Christ and others, the less time you have to be thinking about yourself. So what do? If you need some help, go help someone. If you need affirmations, go genuinely compliment someone. Put into others what you would like to have put into yourself. The Bible's clear about this concept. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly. And so if you want to feel better about yourself, think more highly of other people. Think more highly of Christ. Be surprised what happens. God bless you.